Every ASP.NET Web Form developer, when think about moving towards ASP.NET MVC, what is the first question which comes to his mind? As per my experience, everybody asks me only one question in the beginning. What should I do for grid view? Where will I find grid view? As a ASP.NET Web Form developer, we are very much used to with controls like grid view. And in ASP.NET MVC, we don't have support for any server control. So this is the biggest fear factor for every web form developer, that how will I include grid view here. So in this video we will learn the same. We will learn how to incorporate grid view in ASP.NET web forms and how to work with them. Now in ASP.NET MVC there are multiple ways to do something. If you want to implement grid view, then there are various ways. If you are a jQuery fan, then what you can do is use manual jQuery coding, write some manual code, implement paging, implement sorting, dynamically create table, tr, etc. and bring grid view here. If you are an Angular fan, then Shiv sir already explained how we can create grid view using Angular. Now other than these two approaches, there is a third approach. In Microsoft, in ASP.NET MVC, you might have heard about helper functions like @HTML.textbox for, @HTML.dropdown for, etc. Similarly, we have one helper function which will let us create grid views. So that's what we are going to learn here. Now before we get into that helper function, let's first create some ingredients. Like let's create model, right click, add new class, customer, and let me create three properties inside it: prop, string, customer name, prop, string, and address, prop, double tab, int age. Done. Next we need view model. View model is nothing but view a model specific to model view. Sorry, I mean to say model specific to view. We already have a dedicated video describing view model. You can go through it and understand view model in detail. Let name this folder as view models, and then let's create one more class inside this view models folder. Let's name this class as grid VM. Enter. Now let's create a simple property inside it: prop list of customers. And in order to get this customer, we have to put a using here. So let me put using MVC grid dot models. Next, let's right click this controller folder and add new controller, MVC file empty controller. Add, we'll name this controller as, let's say, grid sample controller. I'll say add. It will create a new controller for us and it will contain a default action method, that is index. Let's reuse this index action method. And next what we will do is we will create a method here. We'll create object of grid view model. Definitely for that we need this using statement in the top. So let's click on it and it will simply put using statement in the top automatically. V is equal to new grid view model, and v dot customers equal to get customers. This dot get customers. So control dot enter. So it will simply create a method here. Now just to make this video simple, what I'll do is I'll just copy the get customer code from my notepad and I'll put it here. As you can see, it's a simple code. What I'm doing is I'm simply creating a list of customer and adding 100 customers inside it dynamically. Again, I'm doing it hard coded, but you can do it dynamic using entity framework or some other approach. Okay, for this customer, again we need namespace, so either press control dot or simply press this blue arrow and it will show you using MVC grid dot model. Just click on it and it will simply add this using statement here and we are done. Next we will create view. let's right click this action method, say add view index. It should not be empty without model, it should be simple empty, so that we can go and select model as grid VM. Then say add, it will create a new view for us, and now we'll start creating this view. First we will put @ enter, and then here we will create var v or grid is equal to web grid new web new web grid, and we have to pass the model object, or we can say the data source. So in our case data source is going to be model.customers, fine, comma, you have to specify a couple of properties like do you want paging? Yes, so I'll say can page colon true, comma, can sort colon true, comma, page rows per page is going to be 10, etc. And then semicolon, because we want paging we have to put pager, so let me simply say grid dot pager, and I'll say here you will see a couple of options like web grid page mode, right? So I'll say web grid page modes dot next previous, we want both next and previous, right? So next previous, done. Next what we should do is we have to display it here, so I'll simply say @grid dot get HTML, it will simply display grid view here without any effort. So what we did, first we created object of grid view, passing data source, enabling paging, enabling sorting, set the number of rows in per page, that is 10, so in every page it will show 10 records. Then we said the pager is going to be going to show both next and previous buttons. So and finally we are saying whatever HTML it returns, just display it here. So we are using helper function for creating grid view. Let's execute and see, let's see what we will actually get. Let's press F5. In the URL let's put /grid sample /index, which is nothing but our action method and controller. Press enter. Oh, there's an error, object reference not set to an instance of an object. The reason for this error is simple. Press F5. We are using this model here, but we are not passing it from here, so that's the error. So let's pass this v here and it will solve the error. Let's press F5 again, and then let's simply press refresh here, and you can see the grid here. Let's click on sorting. As you can see the records are sorting now. 99, 0 is at the top, age, customer name, third page, fifth page, everything is working, but it doesn't look good, right? So let's go back to our view and let's use some CSS. So now if you check this grid get HTML method, it has some parameters like table style. I'll say grid, comma, you have something called as header style, so I'll say header style going to be grid header. Oh sorry, this should be in a double quotes, so I'll say grid and comma, you'll see alternate row style equal to, I'll say colon alternate row. Okay, now let's go to our head tag. Let's put a style tag here, and then let's define this CSS class. First one is grid header, so let me say grid header space td, means all the td's inside grid header. It should be background color is going to be, let's say light. I'm not good in colors, okay, so I'm just doing it for demonstration purpose. And I'll say all the other grid td's should be dot td is going to be background color, oh sorry, dot grid space td. That means td inside dot grid class. So I'll say here background color is going to be, let's say, light, what we call it as, let's say gray, and then we will say alternate row dot td, and let me put a css style here. I'll say background color is going to be light, 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 let's say pink. As I said, I'm not good in color. So now let's go to our UI and let's press refresh. Okay, now it looks somewhat good, right? So now what we can do is, why this t didn't applied? Because it should be th, because it's header, right? So I'll say reload now. Okay, it's there, but still it doesn't look good, right? So we need some kind of border here. So what I'll do is I'll say border colon 1 pixel solid black for td. Let me press reload now. Okay, but we need border for this th as well. So let me do the same for this th. Let's say refresh, but still this gap and all, it doesn't look good. So let's go back to our grid, go back to our style tag, and let's define one more class, that is grid, which is nothing but our entire table. And I'll say border hyphen collapse going to be collapse. Say reload. Now it looks good in formatting, but we can do it better. Let's put some spacing between this text and border, and let's also format this footer. Let's go back to Visual Studio, and just after this alternate row parameter, let's pass one more parameter, that is footer style, and let's set it to grid footer. Now let's copy this and let's define it here. We'll say grid footer td, and we'll set background color to light green. Now you may be wondering, when CSS class is grid footer, why we are setting background color to grid footer dash space td? The reason is we cannot set background color to tr, that is table row. That's why we are doing it for td. Same applies for grid header, alternate row, etc. And as we discussed earlier, we also need to put spacing between text and border, so we can do it here. We'll say padding colon space 3 pixel. Now let's go back to our Chrome. Let's say refresh. Now it looks better. Let's go back to first page. It also looks good. Next, let's say we don't want to display this address column here, and we also want to customize these headers. Like instead of showing customer name, we want to display customer space name. So for that, we'll go back to our Visual Studio source, and here there is one more parameter available called columns. Okay, let me press enter here to make it readable. Colon grid. Grid is nothing but our object. Okay, grid dot columns, and it will simply ask me the list of columns which I want. So I'll put it like this, and here I'll say grid dot column. I'll say I want customer name in the beginning instead of address, comma, the header is going to be customer name, comma, second column I'm expecting is age, comma, age. Okay, done. Now let's go back to our Chrome. Let's press refresh. Great, awesome. Next, let's display address just after this customer 0 or customer name, but in the same column. So for that, let's go to our HTML again, and here after this customer name, customer space name, which is our header, we'll put one more parameter, that is format colon. Now here you have to understand razor syntax properly. So I'll say text. That means I'm going to write an HTML in between this. Okay, so if you put whatever inside between this, that is going to be considered as HTML. Okay, I'll say, let's say sample, and let's refresh here and check. So as you can see, sample is coming here, right? So now if I want something dynamic here, so what I should do is I should put @ here. So I say @item dot. Unfortunately, we will not get any intelligence here. We have to type everything. So I'll say customer name. Let's go to our Chrome. Let's press refresh. Customer name is coming. Now we need to put bracket. So if I put like this, it will give me compile error, because it will consider this customer name as function. But if I put space, then whatever I'll put here, that is going to be considered as again straightforward HTML. For example, if I put it like this, it will display this sample as it is, but it will evaluate the value of this customer name and then it will display. Okay, let's check. Press refresh. Now we'll see that customer 0 will be displayed as it is. Sorry, customer 0 is coming as a customer name, but sample is coming as it is. Now here we again want to display some dynamic coding. So we'll again put @item dot, we need address, and as I said again, we need to press space here, otherwise it will not work. And now we'll come here, press refresh, and we are done. Next, let's understand how to put custom columns like edit or something like that. Now for edit button, we can follow the same approach. We'll go to our source code, put comma, enter, grid dot column, but this time we will not be bound to some specific column, so we'll directly start with format. We are not interested in any kind of header or something, and then we will say @text, and now whatever we will put between this is going to be considered as HTML. So we'll say anchor tag, href is going to be hash, because we are not interested in redirecting, and then on click we will invoke a simple JavaScript function, that is edit customer, and then we will say edit, it's going to be the text, and here we are interested in passing some parameter. So single quotes @item, which will give us current item in the data source, dot, we will not get any intelligence, we will say customer name. Now let's go and refresh this URL and let's see whether it is working or not. First refresh, edit is here. Let's check the source of this edit button, and as you can see, on click edit customer, and in the bracket customer 0 is passed. If you check the second one, it is customer 1. That means the one we are expecting is generating. Now let's create the JavaScript function, that is edit customer, and proceed further. So after this style tag, we will create a script tag, and then we will create a function called edit customer and accept customer name as argument. Let me remove this extra e, and then what we will do is we will make a Ajax call from here, Ajax call to action method, which we will create here. So we will create an action method here, public action result edit customer string customer name. So when we click on the edit button, when we click on this edit link, I meant to say, this JavaScript edit customer will get invoked, and from here using Ajax we will make a request to this edit customer action method, and here we will simply return content result as received colon plus customer name. Please note, in real scenario, you will do some database communication, you will get some result, and you may return some JSON result, or you may return some partial view result, whatever. But in this demonstration, just for demonstration purpose, I am returning content result. But will it work? No. Why? Because this customer name will always come as null. The reason for that is our route config file. If you check the route config file, you will realize that here we have kept route name as ID. We have to change it as customer name. Then only this customer name will get the value which we will pass from here. Now next, in order to make a Ajax call, we need jQuery file. So in the script folder, we have it here. Let's take it and and we'll take it and we'll simply drag it to our page. Now we can use the jQuery functions here, and here we will simply say $.get edit customer. Please note, this edit customer is nothing but it's the action name, comma, we want to pass customer name as argument. So customer name is equal to plus customer name, which is this one, dot done. Now this dot done, whatever function we pass as a callback to this done function will be invoked when our action method completes execution. So I'll say function R semicolon, and we'll simply say alert R. Now let's press F5 and let's see what we will get. Oops, it looks like something is broken. Let's try to understand the reason for this error. Now in our route config, we said that we are going to accept three parameters: controller name, action, and customer name. But we are not passing any third parameter here, and that is the reason it is saying not found. Now you may ask me a question, but earlier it was working, right? The reason for that is earlier we specified the parameter here is going to be ID, and we say ID is optional, so that's why it was working. We have to pass max 2 parameter in that case. But now we didn't specify any default value for this customer name, so it is must to pass third parameter. So if you pass the third parameter like this, it will work. But if you won't pass any parameter, it will always end up with not found. So the one solution will be always pass this third parameter, or simply make this customer name optional like this. Now you will get the expected output. Execute it, simply click on refresh, and you'll see that it will work with even 2 parameters now. See here, 2 parameters, and it is working. Let's click the edit button. As you can see, we are getting the message received customer 0. Let's click on another one, received customer 1. Now let's go back to our source code. Let's put a breakpoint in this edit customer method, and let's confirm that it's actually working. Let's go back to Chrome. Let's click on edit. As you can see, the breakpoint got hit. Customer name contained customer 1, and now we are returning content result, which will ultimately come to this done function, and this R will contain that content result, and it will be displayed in alert. So let's press F5, and here it is. Now before we end this video, let me introduce to you, or let me explain you one more feature, and that feature is Ajax in paging and sorting. So let me go back to our source code, and in this WebGrid constructor, if I press comma, you will see one more parameter is there, that is Ajax update container ID. I'll put it as, in double quotes, div grid, and then I'll simply copy this string from here, and this entire get HTML, what I'll do is I'll simply encapsulate inside a div. I'll simply take it and I'll put it here, and this div will be decorated with an ID attribute whose value will be div grid. And in order to work with Ajax, we need jQuery, which is already there, which we have used for this edit customer functionality. Now let's say save, let's come here, let's say refresh, and now let's click on this customer name link. You'll see that, see, it's getting it is getting sorted. Okay, if I try with age, it is still working. Paging, it's working. And just check this icon, there is no refresh, only grid is getting updated. So it's that simple. If you want to implement paging and sorting in Ajax manner in WebGrid, you have to simply include this jQuery file, and after that you simply need this Ajax update container ID. And this is all about WebGrid. Hope you enjoyed. Thank you.